Hey guys, this is the Dark Preacher, and it's time for a story. So, this is going to be the first of a series. Basically, I'm going to put it out every Wednesday. It's going to be tales from the last 10 years of my life, and quite frankly, I have lived a lot in the last 10 years. So, where to start? Let's start with the basics. I'm from Missouri, grew up in a small town. Graduated 62 out of 66 kids in my high school class, but got fairly decent grades. A's, B's, C's. Failed one math class once because I didn't do the homework because I was bored. And that leads me to the Marine Corps. I ended up getting an algebra waiver because I scored so high on the ASVAB that I didn't need the algebra that was required for my job that I was going for. So, when a recruiter tells you, yes, you can get a certain job in this MOS field, do not trust them unless they put it down in writing that you're getting that actual MOS. I was going for computer programming, and I ended up with second echelon radio, switchboard, and telephone repair. That means if a radio operator knocked a knob off of a radio, I had to put it back on. If a radio operator left a 50-foot, 50-pin power cable laying across a tank trail, and it got ran over by a tank and cut into about 60 different pieces, I was the one that had to build a new one. Physical outer changes to Humvees for radio systems, I was the one that put those in. So yeah, I ended up with a crap job. The only thing I did was troubleshoot radio systems, find out which card was the problem child, ordered parts if I needed to, replaced them if I needed to, and if I couldn't fix it because my level of training wasn't high enough, I sent it up the repair chain to the next echelon of repair. I was an overtrained radio operator, basically, which led to me being bored with my job, which led to a few small discipline problems. Basically, I showed up my gunnery sergeant one time when a visiting foreign general was in our shop, and Gunny sat there and said, well, this is what this system does, and I basically said, no, Gunny, that's not how it does that, right in front of that general. Embarrassed the hell out of that Gunny. If I had to do it over again, I still would have done it. Because that Gunny, he didn't know his job. He didn't know his MOS. He went to the school, graduated, didn't do anything with it. So, I was fresh out of comm school, and that led to him having a major grudge against me. And so, his punishment, and I put that in air quotes, punishment for me was to have me be a messman, which he thought would be on base, and I thought would be on base. But it turns out that the day after my 20th birthday, I was loaded up on a bus at Camp Lejeune and bussed up to Norfolk, to the Navy base there, and placed on a ship to head overseas. Well, wasn't that fun and enlightening? That certainly taught me a lesson. Yeah. I hated every minute of it. Every single moment I was on that ship, I hated it. Because I wasn't there to do my job, the job I was trained to do. No, I was there to help the cooks. I was there to help the cooks. I wasn't there to help repair radio systems. I wasn't there to set up switchboards. I wasn't there to set up telephone lines. None of that. I was there to help the cooks. Yeah, no. So while I was overseas helping the cooks, one night I was walking back from the mess tent and I looked up and I saw an explosion. A Scud had been launched toward our camp, and a Patriot missile intercepted it. It blew it up directly above our camp. Seeing as how I was one of the first ones to actually notice it, I screamed out gas, 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 like we're supposed to, because we didn't know what was in those things. And from what I can tell, we still don't. I put on my mask, and I ran for the nearest Scud bunker, which I didn't trust those things with my life, because when we were coming into the camp, we'd seen where they tried to place one, and it landed on a corner and broke in half. Because you see, the concrete they used over there in Kuwait had too much sand in it. Because, well, Kuwait's a desert. So, what did we do? We covered it in sandbags. Yep, that'll keep you safe. So, that was the start. The start of everything. The reason why I am the way I am nowadays. I had a complete and total emotional breakdown on my way back from overseas on ship. A lot of guys that I went over there with, they didn't come back the same, either physically or mentally. About 4 of the guys that I was with that camp tried to get themselves sent home by shooting themselves. At the time, I thought they were cowards. But now, I'm starting to think they were the only sane ones over there. So, I got back, and it was 4th of July when we got back. I left in January. 6 months gone. 6 months of my life that I will never, ever get back. 6 months of sanity killing torture, both on ship, off ship, and back on ship again. I had NCOs in charge of me that didn't know their back end from a back hoe, and that is putting it nice and polite and PG. The Marine in me is trying to come out, and I'm trying to keep him in check. So, I took 6 months. 6 months before I went back to my unit. That was all time that I was supposed to be checking out of the unit I was in. Well, one thing you learn when you're a pogue is how to skate. And skating means finding ways to keep doing your job without actually doing your job. And I did. I took a long time checking out of that unit and checking back in with my own. Because I knew that all the stories I'd heard about 8th Comm, the unit I was with, being one of the worst units on base, were absolutely true. Hell, before I got to that unit, they had a prostitution and drug dealing ring that was being run out of the barracks, busted up a week before I got there. The guy who was in charge of that entire thing got out of the Marine Corps the same day I did. He'd gone from Sergeant Major to private. He spent 3 years in the brig before they kicked him out. So yeah. Bunch of winners over there at 8th Crime. Yeah. But anyways, I got back to my unit and found out after the first run that I couldn't breathe. Turns out, another thing that I got overseas, besides the PTSD, was stress-induced asthma. If I exercise too much, I have an asthma attack. If I get stressed out too much, I can't breathe, and I have an asthma attack. There's a bunch of things. If I get too upset, I stress myself out, and I have an asthma attack. So, this is a bit of a ramble. but it's the story. Anyway, I kept going back and forth between dressing and acting like a goth and dressing and acting like a cowboy. If that doesn't tell you that there's something wrong with me, I don't know what does. But nobody in my unit seemed to notice this. They noticed it and they just thought, oh yeah, he's just weird because, he plays video games. And all of my higher ups, they were either suck ups or from grunt units or from different MOSs where they didn't have to deal with the tech side of things. I had a commanding officer for the entire battalion that came from a grunt unit and decided, well, all these techs and radio operators, they need to be taught how the real Marine Corps works. And so he took us on a 25-mile hike in full gear, 2 miles of which were in gas masks, because you never know when we're going to have a gas attack in North Carolina. Yeah. And we're going to have to, hike for 2 miles in sarin gas to make sure that we can get someplace where the sarin gas hasn't blown to. He did it in the middle of August in North Carolina in one of the hottest summers on record. 25-mile forced march, full gear, full packs, full weapons, flak jackets, gas masks, the whole 9 yards. We ended up using every 7-ton we had available to carry the heat casualties out, plus every single ambulance in the entire county. The commanding general of the base told that colonel to stop at 22 miles. My platoon was at the very tail end of this entire menagerie. I was with 8th Comm, Service Company, EM Platoon. We went from the very end of this menagerie to the very front because we kept passing entire companies of people, about 5 miles worth of human beings littering the road, passed out from heat exhaustion. There was nothing we could have done. It was the commanding general that had to tell him to stop. For a day, a full 24-hour period after this was over, didn't matter how much I drank, didn't matter how much I rested. Pardon me. I ended up with Charlie horses, a sprained ankle, and the beginnings of arthritis because of that. So, here I sit, 33 years old. Half my hair is gray from stress. The other half's from genetics. Arthritic in my ankles, knees, lower back, upper back, wrists, and that makes it very hard to game. With PTSD, a genetic heart condition where I can't go on, things like roller coasters or get too stressed out anymore. And all sorts of mental issues, which were compounded by the fact that after I got back from overseas, I started drinking a lot. I am a recovered or recovering alcoholic. I used to get 2/5 of rum every weekend and finish those off by myself. So, let this be a lesson to you kids. If you're going to join the military and the recruiter says you're getting a certain MOS, make sure you get it in writing. And if you do end up going and getting an MOS that you don't want, as soon as you get to your unit, if you've joined for college money, put in the paperwork to actually go to college. Tell them the college you want to go to, and tell them you're using your GI Bill to do it. You'll still be attached to the unit, but you'll be able to go to that college you tell them you want to go to this college, get your degree, and then go to OCS, they will gladly help you out, because officers are few and far between, especially from the enlisted ranks. But I think that's going to do it. I'm going to get all this edited up and out for tomorrow. So, as always, I'm the Dark Preacher, and this has been a story, a bit of a ramble, and an opinion, and a little bit of a life advice. The next story I tell will be how I became homeless the first, second, and third times. So, until the next video, I'll see you then. Bye.